Your sister walks into the room. Jealousy erupts within like a dormant volcano, spewing old insecurities in molten waves of doubt. She receives a toast and familial applause for her new promotion. Principal engineer at the software company she works for. And you smile. You always smile. That's what big sisters do, even when it burns. But lately, the smile feels like a lie. Every achievement of hers echoes like a reminder. Though you're older by 4 years, you were always the one falling behind. She's the golden girl, the one your parents brag about, the one who got the brains, the shine, the easy love. You've tried to shake it off. You tell yourself it's petty, that you're grown, that jealousy like this should have died in childhood. But it hasn't. It's just grown quieter, sharper, more intimate. Still, this isn't the part that anyone talks about. Not the sleepless nights or the way it poisons even your good days. Not the quiet ache when your partner says, "Your sister's really impressive," without knowing the damage it does. But what if jealousy isn't just about her wins? What if it's about the parts of you that were never seen, never celebrated, and the story you've had to write in their absence? Here's the truth you've never admitted even to yourself. You don't just envy her, you grieve the version of you that might have been, if you'd been chosen first. The next morning after your family's visit, you wake up wrapped in a familiar fog, the kind that settles after emotional fallout. Liam's breathing is soft beside you, steady, unaware of the storm you carried into sleep. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, unsure if it's shame, anger, or relief pulsing through your body. You said some things last night, the words are out now, and they can't be taken back. But instead of clarity, you feel raw. Was it the truth you finally spoke, or just your jealousy, sharpened into something ugly and unleashed? And if it was jealousy, what does that say about you? Later, as you shuffle to the kitchen, avoiding Liam's glance, you play the moment over and over again in your head. Your mother's tight-lipped expression, Maeve's wide eyes, stunned and blinking, and your father, silent for once, just watching you like you'd broken some unspoken rule. You've always told yourself it didn't matter that they favored her, that her straight A's, her innate technical aptitude, and perfect posture were just her way of being. But it did matter. It always has. So why have you pretended otherwise for so long? You pour coffee with shaking hands, scrolling your phone without reading, trying to distract yourself from the ache settling in your ribs. You think back to being 12, watching your parents beam at Maeve's science fair trophy, while your own poem, pinned neatly to the fridge, gathered dust. Was that the first time you felt small, or had it started even earlier? And if the jealousy has lived in you this long, feeding on the silence and self-denial, what kind of life has it shaped without you noticing? You've built a good life in Galway, or at least that's what you tell yourself on the quieter days. You live in a modest but charming flat with Liam, whose love is patient, even when yours is prickly. Your freelance copywriter work lets you work from home, the library, and the soft corner of your favorite bookshop. It's a life that should feel enough. But every time you open social media and see Maeve's latest post, another conference talk, another glowing testimonial from her team, You feel it again. That pinch. That bitter tug in your stomach. Why does her success make you feel so small? Is it envy? Or does her brightness simply highlight the dim places in your own life? Your parents visit every few months, always with polite questions about your projects, but never the same shine in their eyes they get when Maeve enters the room. You've mastered the art of quick deflection. Things are going well. Client work's been steady, but you can tell they're not really listening. You see it in how fast they pivot back to Maeve. Sometimes you wonder, if you stopped trying altogether, would they even notice? And deeper still, why do you still need their validation at 34? Why do you still feel like you are being overshadowed or being overlooked as the kid scribbling poems in the corner while everyone clapped for your sister? Maeve, for her part, never seems smug or boastful. That only makes it worse. She's kind, grounded, always asking how you're doing. She texts you memes and remembers your favorite wine. And yet, her perfection, so effortless, so unintentional, feels like a mirror you're always failing to look into. What does it say about you that someone else's kindness still stings? Can jealousy live even in the spaces where love exists? And if so, how do you reconcile the two? You bury it with work, you say yes to too many deadlines, scribble drafts into the night, fill the silence with podcasts and white noise and television reruns. But still, the thoughts creep in. You wonder how your life might have looked like if you had her brains, her confidence, her discipline. You even ponder how things may have been if you had been born second. At least that way, there would have been less pressure. At least, that's what you tell yourself. But even in this solitude of silent thought, you lack conviction with your own mind. But then another question whispers beneath all the rest. Is this really about her? Or is it about what you believe you'll never become? The dinner confrontation could have stayed a one-off, a moment of weakness you buried like all the others, but something inside you won't let it go. Days later, as you walk Salt Hill Promenade in the misting rain, it all starts unraveling again. You replay the scene in your head for the 100th time and realize this wasn't just about that one toast. This was about years, your years, of quiet swallowing, of never asking for what you needed. Isn't it strange how silence can shape you more than words ever could? That night, you open your laptop and begin typing. Not for a client, not for money, but for yourself. You write a letter, not to Maeve, not yet, to your younger self. You write about the first time you felt small, the first time you watched someone else shine while you were asked to dim, and the words come pouring out, trembling but honest. Why have you spent your whole adult life trying to prove your worth to people who were never really looking? A new awareness takes root in your core, subtle but undeniable. Maybe it's time to finally confront this, not just the moment at dinner, but the deeper wound, the buried resentment, the longing to be seen, the fear that you're unremarkable. What if you allowed yourself to examine that fear instead of running from it? You close your laptop, heart pounding. The rain pens quiet verses on the double-glazed window panes as you feel a sense of unease, but also clarity. If this jealousy has followed you for this long, what would it look like to finally face it? Not push it away, not numb it with busyness. but sit in it. What if the only way out is through? The next morning, you delete the letter. You tell yourself it was dramatic, that you were just tired, that it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. You fall back into the routine, emails, coffee, edits, concealing the emotional disruption like a bruise under makeup. It's easier to pretend that things are fine, that you're overreacting. Isn't that what you've always done? You've worn your composure like armor, but whose comfort has that ever truly protected? Yours or theirs? Liam notices. He doesn't say anything outright, but his touch lingers longer than usual. He suggests a weekend trip to Connemara, gently, as if you're a bird he's trying not to startle. You decline, citing deadlines, but really, you're scared of what silence might bring. What if you actually started unpacking the mess? What if you realized you weren't just angry, but deeply sad? And when was the last time you allowed yourself to feel sadness without shame? The internal voice, the one that asked you to write the letter, though quieter now, whispers like the echoes of a distant wind just out of range, barely audible, but noticeable enough to command attention. You tell yourself you're too busy to indulge it, that there is no time to spiral. But beneath that excuse lives something far more uncomfortable. The fear that your pain is too old, too complicated, too rooted to be fixed. How do you even begin to branch out, leave that pain behind, and focus on healing something that shaped the very foundation of how you see yourself? At night, you scroll through photos on your phone. There's one of you and Maeve, arms wrapped around each other last Christmas. You both look genuinely happy, but your eyes linger for a second longer on hers. Does she ever feel the weight of your resentment? Has she sensed your withdrawal, even when you smiled? Or worse, has she simply accepted that you've grown apart, not knowing the truth of what lives between you? One morning, Nora, your former writing professor, now semi-retired and running a cozy, monthly group in a quiet cafe near the river, crosses your mind like a shadow slipping through dusk-lit leaves. You show up on a whim, more to be out of the house than for insight. But as the group begins, she looks over at you, over the rim of her glasses, and says, "What emotion do you keep mistaking for strength?" And you freeze, because the answer slams into you with the force of a tide. Indifference. After the session, you stay back. You tell her the edges of your story, trying not to cry. She doesn't offer platitudes or pity, just a simple question. What would it mean if your jealousy was actually longing? The word hits you harder than expected. Longing for the version of your childhood you didn't get. Longing for the years of pretending you didn't want to be chosen. Longing for the closeness with Maeve that never got to grow because you'd been too busy keeping score. You walk home that night with her question echoing in your mind. What would it mean to mourn that loss instead of resenting the person who had what you didn't? Could you allow yourself that softness? Or have you confused healing with weakness for so long that you don't know how to let go? When you arrive home, Liam is already on the couch. He smiles, and for the first time in days, you sit behind him and lean in. Not out of obligation, but because something within is beginning to stir. It's not clarity, not yet, but it is a crack in the armor. And sometimes that's the first step towards something real. You send Maeve a voice note. It takes 5 tries to record it. Your voice keeps catching. Your words feel clumsy. But eventually, you let the guard down. You tell her you've been carrying something for a long time, that your distance hasn't been about her. Not really. That it's been hard to feel like you mattered in the same way. You don't ask her to fix it or to apologize. In truth, there is nothing for her to apologize for. You just want her to know. When you press send, your stomach flips. Vulnerability is terrifying. It always has been, but also strangely freeing. For once, you're not hiding. You wonder why it's taken so long to do this. Was it pride, fear, or something more pronounced? A belief that your pain didn't deserve space because it wasn't dramatic enough to count. She replies later that evening. Her voice is calm, but full. She says she had no idea, that she's always admired your creativity, your writing, your courage, that she never meant to shine at your expense. And then she says something that unravels you. I always looked up to you, Maeve. I thought you were magic. You cry. Not delicate, cinematic tears, but heavy, gulping sobs you've held back since childhood. Because here is the truth you never expected. You were loved, even in your silence. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to believe that. The next few weeks feel strange, like learning to walk on new legs. The letter sits rewritten in a new document, this time not as a release, but as a draft of understanding. You find yourself journaling more, pouring years of tangled emotion onto the page. The more you write, the more the emotion shifts. Jealousy loses its sharpness. In its place, hurt, loneliness, and under that, an ache for connection. Why did it take this long to realize that you didn't want to win? You just didn't want to be forgotten. You start noticing the quiet allies in your life. Liam, steady and patient, who never tried to fix you, just stayed. Nora, with her hard-won wisdom and gentleness. Even your mum, in her awkward text messages, trying to ask if you're okay without quite knowing how. Could it be that you've always had support, but you were too deep in comparison to recognize it? What does it say about your past beliefs that you equated attention with love and competition with worth? But the enemy hasn't vanished. It still whispers, especially in moments of silence. They didn't try harder. They didn't see you. It's seductive, that voice. It gives you permission to wallow, to retreat, to believe you're still the underdog in someone else's story. Do you dare keep listening to it? Or is it time to question whether that narrative has expired? You share a lunch with Maeve, your first proper one in months. She's hesitant too, navigating this new closeness with care. You laugh about childhood, avoiding the heavy stuff at first, but there's a moment when she pauses and says, "Though I always looked up to you, a part of me felt you resented me." You want to deny it, soften the truth, but instead, you meet her eyes and say, "I did." and I'm sorry. The air shifts. There's no thunderclap, no music swell, just an honest moment, quietly earned. And sometimes, that's the bravest kind. One evening, you're at your parents' home for dinner. You haven't been in months. The table feels both familiar and fragile. Your dad's old jokes, your mum asking if you're eating enough. But beneath it all, there's an unspoken tension. You've always known how to blend into this setting, how to perform daughterhood without making waves. But tonight, you decide not to perform. It begins with a simple comment. Your mum says how clever Maeve has always been, how she was born to succeed. It's not cruel. It's the same praise she's always given. But this time, you speak. I always felt like I had to work twice as hard just to be seen. Your voice stays steady and soft. Your dad looks surprised. Your mum falters. I never knew you felt that way, she whispers. And you believe her. But that doesn't erase the feeling, does it? You don't raise your voice. You don't accuse. You simply tell the truth, that it hurt to be overlooked, that your achievements felt invisible, that you needed their pride and didn't know how to ask for it. They listen, clumsily, but they try to. Your mother reaches for your hand. I'm sorry, she says. I thought I was being fair. I didn't realize what I was doing. The cave wasn't their house. It was your silence, your fear of shattering the family peace, of being the one to make it messy. But what if wholeness requires mess? What if honesty isn't destruction, but the beginning of reconstruction? And can you truly rebuild if you've never let the truth in? A week later, the guilt sets in. Not theirs, yours. You questioned whether you should have kept it to yourself. You replayed the dinner, wondering if you made things worse. Was it selfish? Did you just need validation? What kind of person digs up the past for attention? But these thoughts aren't truth. They're residue. Remnants of an old belief that your needs are inconvenient. You sit with that shame. You trace its origins. You remember moments, a school prize dismissed, a story you wrote ignored, a comparison drawn between sisters like it was casual. And suddenly, the jealousy makes sense. It was never about Maeve. It was about a younger you, desperate to be seen. Have you ever truly made space for her? Or have you spent your adult life pretending she didn't matter? You return to Nora's group, feeling raw. You speak this time, not about Maeve or your mum, but about the part of you that believed she had to earn love through invisibility. The group is silent, then warm. Someone nods. Someone else wipes a tear. You are not alone in this wound, and maybe that's the point. You never were. You walk home that night and sit on the floor beside your bed, holding your journal. You write not to be heard, but to witness yourself. You write to the girl who felt less than, who watched love go to someone else and thought she had to disappear. You matter, you tell her. Even when no one said it, you always mattered. Something stirs within. Not a grand restructure, but a gentle shift. The jealousy hasn't vanished, but it doesn't sting in the same way. You've confronted it. spoken its name, held it in your hands without flinching. And in that act alone, you've begun to reclaim your story. Isn't that the reward? Finally, stepping out of someone else's shadow and learning to stand in your own light. You started sharing your personal writing again. Small blog posts, reflections on sisterhood, on wounds and healing. The feedback surprises you. People thank you for articulating feelings they've never had the words for. You hadn't realized how many others carry the same invisible grief, the same hunger to feel chosen. Could it be that the thing that once isolated you is now what connects you to others? You meet Maeve again for coffee. This time, the conversation flows easily. She tells you about a new project she's nervous about, and you listen, not as the envious sister, but as someone who genuinely wants her to thrive. Isn't that strange? How the heart makes room once you stop feeding it fear. And what if supporting her success doesn't diminish your own? Later that evening, as you walk the quiet streets of Galway, a thought crosses your mind like a whispered revelation. What if the version of you that you've been mourning never truly existed? What if you've always been enough, but were too busy chasing the impossible to be the favorite, to be better, to notice the worth you already held? It's not all peace and clarity. There are setbacks, days when the old voice creeps back in, asking, what if this closeness doesn't last? What if they forget again? But now, you recognize it for what it is. Fear, not prophecy. And you talk back to it. You say, maybe they will. But that doesn't erase what's true now. You begin reshaping your relationships from the inside out. With your parents, you ask more questions, not just polite ones, but curious, vulnerable ones. You ask your mum what scared her most about raising two daughters. You ask your dad what pride looked like for him. And in their answers, you start to see them as people, not just flawed parents. Does this mean you forgive everything? Not necessarily. But maybe forgiveness isn't the goal. Maybe it's understanding. Liam watches you change with quiet admiration. One evening, he tells you, you seem lighter. And it hits you how much of your energy had been wrapped up in guarding old wounds. Now that you're not carrying it all alone, your body feels different, less braced, more open. What else might change if you stopped living in reaction to pain and started living in response to truth? You write another letter again for yourself. Before you fold it and place it in your drawer, you take another look at the opening words. You are not your jealousy. You are what remains when it fades. It comes unexpectedly. You're at a family gathering, Maeve's birthday. Your parents toast to her success, and for a split second, the old burn flickers. But you catch it. You breathe. And instead of swallowing it or resenting it, you ask yourself, what does it say about me that I feel this? And what does it say that I'm still here, choosing connection anyway? Later that night, Maeve pulls you aside. She thanks you for your honesty, for not walking away, for staying. I always wanted us to be close, she says, but I didn't know how to get through to you. You smile, bittersweet. Neither did I. But maybe this is how. You hug her tightly, not as an apology, not as a performance, but as a promise to show up even when it's hard. You realize that resurrection isn't becoming someone new, it's remembering who you were before the wounds distorted your reflection. Before jealousy, before the longing, before you measured your worth in someone else's applause. Can you live in that place now? Can you trust that you're no longer defined by what you're missing? Back home, you and Liam dance in the kitchen to a silly playlist, barefoot and laughing. And in that unguarded moment, you feel it. Not perfection, not resolution, but presence. The kind of peace that doesn't require proving anything. The kind of love that simply lets you be. You start writing a new series. You call it Sistered. It's part memoir, part reflection, about navigating comparison, learning to see yourself clearly, and the quiet triumph of healing old hurts. The response is overwhelming. Readers write to say they finally understand their own jealousy, their own family roles. You realize your story isn't just yours, it's a mirror for others too. Your parents read the series, your mum calls, she cries, she says she's learning, still learning, and for the first time, you believe her. Not because she's perfect, but because she's trying. And isn't that all that we can ask of the people who raised us? That they try, even now? You and Maeve are planning a trip to Lisbon. Your first, just the two of you. Not to fix the past, but to build something new. To laugh, to get lost in foreign streets, to create memories unburdened by rivalry. You don't know exactly what sisterhood will look like from here, but you're willing to find out. The elixir you return with isn't resolution, it's relationship. It's the power of speaking the unspeakable and surviving it. It's the wisdom that jealousy, when named, can become the bridge instead of a wall. And now, whenever the ache resurfaces, you'll ask, what is this really trying to show me? And maybe, just maybe, the answer to that question, to be loving, to be curious, to be brave, is what healing has always been about. In life, we all face struggles, but that does not mean we are alone in them. By learning to harness your own inner strength, you too can overcome self-doubt and triumph over adversity. If you've ever faced a similar battle, know that you are not alone. You are part of a shared journey. Feel free to share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help others feel seen and understand that there is always hope, even in the darkest of places. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated with the modern hero's journey. Thank you for listening.